Hello, my name is Ezra Garza, and this is Chapter 4 of When Alter Egos Come to Life, a Markiplier fan fiction. Sarah's POV. I got up with a start, and I saw a neatly placed heating pad on my lower regions, and on the bedstand quite a few pads. I shook my head and saw there were various sizes, but as I moved, I felt like there were a million bricks positioned right on my lower regions, and winced, but then soon moved to go and put one of the pads on, knowing that toilet paper wouldn't last too long. I knew I couldn't have slept that long, but it felt nice to get some sleep. Speaking of which, after I washed my hands and exited the bathroom, I listened to any new noises on the other side, but found there were none. No fighting, huh? I slowly exited the room and made my way downstairs to see Google attempting to verse himself in a game of chess. "Oh good, you're awake," he greeted, not necessarily looking up at me. "Yeah, just needed a quick nap. How long was I out for?" About 3 hours." 3 hours? Jeez. Yep. Once again, Google seemed to win the chess match, and he sighed. "It gets tedious when you know the web so well that you know their next moves before they even do them." "Well, I mean, that is what your job is to do, to observe the world around us kind of deal and optimize survival, and whatever knowledge we know as humans. I could probably verse you sometime," I shrugged. "Kind of give you an outlet if you'd like from technology you're exposed to, although I'm not that great at it myself." He stared at me curiously before nodding. I felt a pair of arms around my neck and a crook of a neck on my head. "Hello there." "Wilford, why are you—" "'Cause I can, and I feel like you. I wasn't lying about burning that mustache of yours." His arms quickly removed themselves from me, and when I turned around, he was quickly making his way behind a pillar. I shook my head and I headed to the dining room, only to see that there was nothing there. "You had missed the lunchtime that the mannequins are to serve at." I looked over to Dark and saw he was leaning against a pillar. "Well, where's the kitchen?" "If you think I'm going to let you go in there and ruin—" "Found it." I went through a pair of red bi-swing doors and found myself in a huge kitchen. There was a fridge on the side against the wall near some counters, a stove being stationed a ways away. There was an island counter as well, with some chairs near it and more places to put dishes. There was also a huge pantry. Interesting. I walked up to the fridge and found some sandwich meat, cheese, and mayonnaise and began looking in the pantry for some bread. "What are you making?" Dark asked expectantly from behind me as I successfully found the bread and grabbed it. "Just a sandwich. Do you want one?" He shook his head and I looked around for some plates and a butter knife. Of course, there wasn't a butter knife, but a regular knife worked just as well. I created my sandwich, cut it into triangle pieces, and placed the remaining ingredients away. I looked at it, but I still felt slight disappointment at it. "What's wrong?" ... I looked in the pantry once more and found what was missing. Doritos. Hell yeah! I ran with the Doritos, celebrating my findings of the chips and placing them into my 2 triangles, crunching them in there with the bread. I smiled gleefully and munched on one, loud crunchy noises accumulating from the chips in there. Dark merely stared at my creation, confused. "That seems gross." I saw it before I responded. "It's actually not half bad." "But it kind of ruins the initial dish, and you are leaving a bunch of crumbs behind from the chips." He shook his head as he watched me eat. "Well, you should try it. Maybe someone would have a change of heart," I commented, offering him the remaining sandwich. He stared at it intensely, kind of reminded me of when Markiplier was contemplating the life of a banana for 5 minutes. But Dark picked it up, having crumbles falling out of it, much to his disliking, and bit into it, crunching up the chips. I couldn't read his face as he chewed, but considering he actually swallowed it, had to mean something good. Well? He glanced over to me. It's alright, I guess. I smiled. Good. Time skip. They still had not figured out a way to get me back to my world, and I was getting slightly worried, but not entirely. I mean, our times could be different. Maybe my family hasn't even noticed yet. I tried to put off the thought and looked around the courtyard. Mannequins were just wandering around here and there, but that was actually normal according to Dark. They are like extra bodyguards. Of course, for what wasn't certain, but it still worked out. It wasn't long until I felt a shift in the air around me. Huh? I glanced around me as the mannequins fled away and the wind picked up on me. What the? I felt myself beginning to hover over the ground and being zoomed up into the sky. Whoa! Whoa! Suddenly, the world around me got dark and there was silence. A few minutes later, I woke up back in my room. ... I looked around at the time. 2 a.m. ... I put on my PJs and climbed into bed, calling it a night. Does that mean it really only is a dream? I really couldn't tell at this point as I went to sleep peacefully. Doc's POV. As I was strolling around my castle, pondering on how I would take control once more while Sarah was there, a mannequin quickly whirled around in front of me. What's wrong? I asked. The mannequin grabbed my hand and pulled me in a direction. I followed it with speed and saw it led me to the courtyard in which I saw Sarah being pulled up into the sky. A part of me wanted to chase after her, but why? It's not like she was meant to stay here. Her world opened up once more and consumed her. Well, there she goes then. I walked back into the castle and told a mannequin to clear her room of any leftover messes and went on my way to my own room. Sarah's POV. I woke up at the sound of my alarm and found myself to be calm. I couldn't tell why, but this last time around, whatever it was, made me calm. I still remembered everything that had happened, and it didn't seem like something that was imagined. I mean, sure, I've read some right, fan fiction, but whenever their powers weren't in full use, they do seem more human. Especially Dark. I mean, the way he observed me seemed as though there's a case study, or even like a child. It's like their main foci is whatever character Mark had created, but in every other aspect, they are truly like children. I mean, as far as I know. As I got ready, I considered if I really wanted to go back to them at the end of the day. I mean, they are really fun in some ways. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I went through my day normally, catching up on the videos I had missed the day before. Time moved really fast in the other world when it was only a couple hours or so here, at most, and I found it to be enjoyable. My family and I had also decided to go hang out by going to theaters and then a restaurant afterwards. Although I was so curious about how they were doing. I knew Markiplier wouldn't see my comment really, but honestly I did wonder. But when I tried to return to their world, I couldn't seem to do it. I watched some videos involving them, but every single one of them failed to bring me over. I even tried to read some fan fiction, even the smutty ones, but still nothing. It sort of made it seem as though it wasn't real. That maybe all of that was just a dream. But it couldn't have just been that, right? Still, as I settled down into bed for that night, I couldn't help but feel something was off. Why can't I go back? Doc's POV. Time skip. It's been about a few weeks since she's been here. I had a feeling she wasn't going to come back, but it's been different without her here. The others and I were once again attending to our own activities. But then, something unexpected happened. As I was walking around, I began to hear a voice. I wonder how they are doing. I looked around. Hello? I know that it was real. It couldn't have just been imagined. I walked around trying to find the source. Come on, I just want to check on them. Why can't I go back? I walked outside to the courtyard and found there was an opening. I just want to see them again. Please. I found that Wilford and Google were around me, but before I could ask why, I saw a flashlight and began floating against my own will. Whoa! What's going on? Where are we going? But our questions were soon answered as they reached the scar in the sky and were consumed by light. Everything was bright for a few moments. Not even my dark aura could seem to cloud my exterior. Then it all faded away till we found ourselves in a room. It wasn't a small room, but it was surrounded by walls and had an exit, a closet possibly, a drawer next to a closet with a TV and a Wii on top of it, along with a tiny Christmas tree, even though last time I checked we were still in April. There was also a desk with a blue chair and a bed that was currently occupied by a girl with her headphones plugged in and a grim expression on her sleeping face. It was Sarah. What the? I covered Wilford's mouth and ushered all of us out of the room. How the hell are we here? Wilford asked, bewildered. How am I supposed to know? I replied. I think she summoned us here. We looked over to Google for an explanation. You too heard the voice, right? The voice that made us all end up in the courtyard that brought us here. I'm not sure how we are here without Mark or another human to control, but it seems that she or something linked to her brought us here. But why? I asked. He looked at me with all seriousness. I don't know. I facepalmed. But if we're out here now, that means we can leave, right? Wilford asked. I looked out the window. Well, there's only one real way to find out, right? I call first! Wilford ran to the door and was about to open it when he was shocked by the door, making both his hair on his head and his mustache go up in different directions, and he froze. Google made his way over to Wilford and touched him. Huh. Electromagnetic waves enforcing these. I wonder. He pulled Wilford away from the door and pressed Wilford's hand onto the window. With that, Wilford was nearly blasted back, but Google was still there. So, we're not free, technically speaking, just free of that world. I glanced back at the room as Google laid the mumbling Wilford on the couch to rest. In there is where Sarah rests. But what does that have to do with us being here with her? Should we wake her? I don't think so. I hear it's usually a bad idea to wake people from their sleep, Google commented. Why? Well, they kind of become a bear and will be grumpy. Kind of like you in the morning without your coffee. Oh, speaking of which, my coffee is still back at home! You barely realized it, Google asked, laughing. Well, this is going to be interesting, I grumbled as he settled down to rest for the night. This has been Chapter 4 of When Alter Egos Come to Life. Bye-bye!